to get through the information that we have to share today, and then enough time for questions at the end. We will also be recording these sessions and have them available for future use and reference as you guys are working through your MBQIP reporting. So thank you everyone for joining us. I'm Erin Ackelstead with Mountain Pacific Quality Health. I have been working with AHA and the State of Alaska Flex program to support the critical access hospitals. Mountain Pacific, we mostly support you all through the MBQIP reporting specifically, whether that be through quality improvement or looking at your specific reporting, working with Erica Alm on HARP or CART. I know she's been around for a while too, supporting hospitals up here in Alaska. We also have today helping us with this presentation, Kelly Perkins. She's a nurse by trade, and she's going to be supporting us with this measure specifically. And then her and I will also be kind of working with the Alaska Critical Access Hospitals on the EDTC MBQIP measure. We also have Kyla Newland on with us today, and she's going to be presenting next week on safe use of opioids, and she'll be supporting critical access hospitals with that measure for any specific questions after our education. And then also we're going to be looking at supporting hospitals with some HCP support as well. So those vaccinations for your staff. So thanks again, everyone, for joining. So today we're going to be talking specifically about that new measure for the MBQIP Flex program. So we're going to talk specifically about the hybrid hospital-wide readmission. And we have Callie Perkins, who's going to be our subject matter expert today, presenting. Feel free to put your questions in the chat, and we'll be sure to be watching those. Or you can also email us at the end of the presentation, or we'll have time at the end for questions as well. Okay, Kelly, take it away.
All right. Thanks, Erin. And again, thank you guys for having me on today. Happy to be talking to you guys. Let's go ahead and go to the next slide. So as Erin mentioned, there are some new care coordination measures, and one of those is the hybrid hospital-wide readmission. The other ones are the social drivers of health measures. But as she mentioned, we are only going to be talking about the hospital-wide readmission measure for today. So let's go ahead and go to the next slide. So just to cover this, so when do we start? So this reporting, I know with every new reporting, that's always the question. When do we have to start this? So this measure will be included in the new 2025 core measure set. So the reporting for that is starting on July 1st to June 30th, and then with the submission deadline of October 1st. So you have two options. You can report the measure, or you can declare why the measure is not being reported. So this is something you guys can begin to report now. But that's when it will be the required measure. So let's go ahead and go to the next slide, and I'll explain that a little bit more. So Erin provided this awesome illustration table so you guys can kind of see the submission deadline there. Again, October 1st of 2025, you may choose, and then with the October 1st of 2026, that's when it's the required. So we're going to talk about this today and make sure you guys are ready for that reporting. So let's go ahead and go, there you go, to the next slide. So why is this called a hybrid measure? This measure, a lot of the data elements that we're used to reporting are from the claims-based data. This one is hybrid in the fact that it combines claims data as well as data elements from the patient's medical record. So hence the reason hybrid. So just to give you guys some background on that, let's go ahead and go to the next slide. So on the data elements, there are 13, they call them CCDEs, so the core clinical data elements. There's 13 of them. There are 6 vital sign measures and 7 lab tests. So you want to start looking at these lab tests, you want to start looking at the vital signs and making sure that these are things that we're obtaining for every patient visit. And then the linking elements out of the claims data is the CCN number, the health insurance claim number, the Medicare beneficiary number, date of birth, sex, admission date, and discharge date. So there's your kind of the hybrid. So linking elements are your claims data, and then the core clinical data elements are your medical record components. So let's go ahead and go on to the next slide. So just to give you guys some background on why this measure came to be. So oftentimes there's some concerns about the reporting always being based off of claims data and not necessarily taking into the patient component of that, the clinical component. So this measure helps guide the readmission. It helps us look at the risk of readmission for the patient. So this is an opportunity for us to align the measure with clinical decision support, and also you can alert teams on whether the patient is at risk for readmission, and it also kind of helps guide that clinical decision making real time. So the other outcomes that you're hoping to achieve from looking at this is, care coordination, improving communication, engaging your patients and caregivers in that discharge, and avoiding those readmissions. Some of the outcomes of readmission that, again, through readmission, you want to hopefully reduce is the interruption to patient lives, cost to both patient and the healthcare system, and then any adverse event that could happen from readmission. So hopefully avoiding infections and adverse drug events. So let's go ahead and move to the next slide, and we'll talk a little bit more about the measure. So with this measure, there are some exclusions to the measure. So I have listed here the numerator. So if the patient has more than one unplanned admission within 30 days after discharge from the index admission, so that's only counted as one readmission. And then the denominator is the enrolled Medicare fee-for-service to admission enrolled in the Medicare Advantage A, and they are 65 years and older, discharged alive, and not transferred to another facility. So the exclusions, they may have been admitted to a PPS cancer hospital, exempt cancer hospital. Without, another exemption is without at least 30 days post-discharge. They may also have been admitted for a psychiatric diagnosis, admitted for rehab, or admitted for the treatment of cancer. So as you're looking at these numerators and denominators, I want to remind you guys this is an annual submission. So it's hard, to try to collect all of that data at the end of the year and have it ready to go. So have a plan, and we'll talk about that a little bit more. Have a plan on how you're going to capture this data and how you'll track it kind of throughout the year. So let's go ahead and go to the next slide. So as you begin this process, you're going to want to build processes to start extracting the data and to report on those 13 core clinical data elements. So get your clinical teams involved, get your informatics team, look at report development, look at how you're going to extract the data, and then also start thinking about hospital processes that may need to be updated, revised, maybe even developed to improve collection of those core clinical data elements. If you have patients coming in and maybe you're not getting a weight consistently, weights are one of those core clinical data elements. So you're going to want to make sure that those are consistently being captured. The other thing is looking at those metrics and the standards of unit for those. So one of the examples of that would be, again, weight or temperatures. Some hospitals will use kilograms versus pounds. So you want to take a look at how those core clinical data elements are reported and make sure that that's consistent with your hospital reporting systems. Again, so Fahrenheit versus Celsius, just make sure you take a look at that and you're pulling that data over so it's speaking the same language across the board. You want to make sure that as you're looking at your data, that it's complete and accurate, that you're capturing date of birth, you're capturing all of the labs, vital signs. Again, weight is a big one of those. I do a lot of chart extraction and look at a lot of charts, and that's one thing. As we started talking about reporting on this measure, I just kind of looked and made sure, hey, that one's often missed. I don't see that a lot in the charts that I look at. So again, you want to make sure you're taking a look at that. Also, there is some timing of how the information is going to be gathered. So 24 hours prior to the inpatient stay, 24 hours after that initial inpatient stay, and then 2 hours after that inpatient encounter. So you're going to look for the labs and vitals 24 hours prior to the inpatient encounter, labs and weight 24 hours after, and then the vitals within 2 hours of that inpatient encounter. So there's some time frames there. So you're going to want to make sure that you are engaging your staff, educating them, and when you're doing your extraction, that you're looking at the right periods of time for those data elements. So and that it's pulling from that, and perhaps not like a previous day or something as we're doing extraction. Let's go ahead and go to the next slide. So again, as you're looking at your quality assurance and how you're going to engage in this, oh, I just lost my screen. There we go. You want to review the workflows and the processes. So, for every patient, you can engage them in the same workflow and process and make sure that you're getting your weights, you're getting your vital signs within those timeframes, that we're ordering that set group of labs for them. And you want to make sure that all of those things are being accomplished and captured for every admission. So as you're monitoring this, you can use this for quality assurance. You can report out on, how often you're seeing a patient admitted and these labs aren't being ordered, or how often are vital signs not done within the first 2 hours of them being in that inpatient admission. So there's a lot of opportunities for quality assurance. Once you get those processes and workflows established, and you find that that clinical documentation is on point, then there's some larger scale metrics you can set for quality assurance and performance improvement. So for data collection, you'll want to report out on 95%. So that's 6 linking variables on 95% or more of the discharges. So maybe that's a good metric, that you are getting 95% of those that meet all of the criteria there to be reviewed and to be sent out. So that's something you guys can set now and start working toward, that you guys are getting the clinical documentation that you need. And then as you get everything that you need and you're getting that hybrid information package together, that then you have your 95% and you're ready to report. So again, depending on how your facility is doing, then you can, kind of ratchet up your quality assurance as you need to. But the first thing I would definitely recommend is looking at your processes, looking at your systems, and then identifying any areas that you may need to improve upon right now to make sure that you're gathering all of that information. So, all right, let's go ahead and go to the next slide. So on the reporting, you'll report on all of the information requested, and again, in the denominator and numerator, and this will go through chart extraction. So Erica Alm is going to take over, and she is going to actually talk to you guys about the process of the extraction. Or sorry, the reporting process, not the extraction.
Thanks, Callie. Okay, so now moving on to reporting the readmission data. So the first thing you'll do is you'll go ahead and populate the core clinical data elements into a QRDA Category 1 file. And to construct the QRDA1 file, you will use the most current requirements that are found in the implementation guide. And the implementation guide can be found on the ECQI Resource Center website. Chapter 6 includes any instruction on core clinical data element submission. There's also a webinar that is provided that will provide insight on error codes that you might experience and will offer some tips for you for your first time reporting. And we have links for both of those here in this presentation. So we'll get to that in a future slide. So basically this measure will capture the first instance of documentation. This means the earliest instance of documentation that meets the timing requirements will be evaluated and included in the QRDA file. Next slide. Okay, so to submit the QRDA file through the HQR system, you'll go ahead and log in with your HARP credentials. And once you log in, you're going to come to the dashboard. And if you hover over to the left-hand side of the navigation bar, you'll click on Data Submissions. Next slide. And once you do that, at the top, you'll see where you can select hybrid measures. So once you click that, then below that, you'll see select a submission type. So you can select either test or production. Now test, if you want to kind of do a trial run, you want to make sure that your file is formatted correctly, you can go ahead and do it as test just to make sure everything's working. Once you have the file ready to go, you can choose production. And then there'll be a select files button that you can click on. So you're going to go ahead and click on that to start the upload. And we'll go to the next slide. So after selecting your file to upload, you will see a status where it'll go to upload started. And then once that's completed, it'll go into accepted. Next slide. And then after submitting the file, you can go ahead and verify that it was successfully submitted in the portal by selecting data results. So again, you'll just navigate to the left-hand side of the page, click on data results, and then hybrid measures will appear, and you'll go ahead and click on hybrid measures. Next slide. And then this will bring you to where you can choose outcomes. So you'll select the outcomes tab, and underneath there you'll choose production and then the quarter that you're uploading that you uploaded the data for. And then you'll choose hybrid HWR. And what it will do is it'll show you the episodes that met or did not meet the initial patient population. And just to note, if you're thinking that you're missing data, just make sure to check the window requirements for all CCDE encounters. And maybe it was uploaded to test, so maybe you won't see it. So if it was, you can just go back in and change it and redo it as production. Next slide. So on here are some resources available to assist you with your submission. Here is the link to the implementation guide, and then that webinar that'll help you with any error codes that you might experience, just some tips for first-time submission. You'll take a look at these two links. And then we also have the hybrid hospital-wide readmission data submission guide. This is a great resource. Basically everything that we're going over in the presentation you'll find in the data submission guide, so that will be really helpful. And then there is a video as well, and we're going to go ahead and watch that. It's just like a 2.5-minute video.
Welcome to HQR. In this quick tutorial, we'll show you how to submit data for hybrid measures and view your submission outcomes. From the dashboard, go to the navigation menu on the left side of your screen. Select Data Submissions. Select the Hybrid Measures tab. Select Submission Type. For this example, we'll upload a hybrid measure file to production. Select the Production tab. Now you're on the Upload page. To upload a file, use the Select File button. Select the file you want to upload from your computer. You'll see the file processing in the uploads. Once processing is finished, The system will confirm that HQR accepted the file by showing a green check mark. To check the outcomes of your file, go to the navigation menu on the left side of your screen. Select Data Results. Select Hybrid Measures. Select the Outcomes tab on the top. To view the submission results, select where you submitted the file under Submission Type, which could be either Test or Production. Then select the quarter and measure you want to view and click on the Select button. You now will see the number of episodes that met IPP or did not meet IPP. Use the cards to filter the files in the table below. To learn more information, participation requirements, you can select on any of these links. Whether you've met participation requirements is calculated outside of the HQR site. To see if you've met the requirements, check your next hybrid hospital-specific report. And that's it. Look for more quick tutorials at hqr.cms.gov/support.
Okay, so that's a good resource to be able to
Welcome
use
to
as well.
HQR. In this quick tutorial, we'll show you how to view the Measure Details page, previously called Claims-Based Measures. From the data.
Okay, so public reporting on Care Compare. So the hybrid hospital-wide all-cause readmission measure will be public reported on Care Compare starting in July of 2025. And this will be for the measurement period of July 1st, 2023 through June 30th, 2024. On this slide, though, is also a link to the 2025 public reporting key dates and resources as well. Next slide. And then I think we're back to Kelly.
Yep. And just to kind of continue on with some additional resources, these are just a few more resources that have some really good information, measure information, the specifications and the data elements. Again, the top one here is a great guide, and I think that was the same one that Erica had in her resource as well. We just wanted to reiterate that's a really good guide. So make sure you guys take a look at that. And then also the reporting the hybrid hospital-wide readmission measure. That one is also really helpful. So let's go ahead and go to the next slide. And oops, as Erin mentioned, there's all of our contact information. So if you guys have any specific questions, feel free to reach out and we'd be happy to help you guys with those. And I'll turn it back over to Erin.
Yeah, thanks, Callie, and thanks, Erica. Yeah, we just kind of wanted to give a quick introduction to the measures and just making sure you all knew who what resources are out there to help support you all as you're going to start reporting these new measures, and then the support that you have from us at Mountain Pacific, whether it comes down to chart abstraction or looking at the measure more specifically for your facility, and then also the reporting pieces. We're here to support you through the whole process, especially this first time that you're going to be reporting. If you have questions or if you want us to walk through it with you the first time, just reach out at any time and we'd be happy to do so, especially as we get into these new reporting measures. So I kind of want to open it up and just see if there's any questions that we can help with. We'd be happy to answer them now or talk through anything, or we'd be happy to talk after this call as well and have a one-on-one with your facility specifically.
Deanna has her hand raised.
Mainnet, is everyone allowed to chat?
Yeah, I believe they can chat or they can unmute themselves.
Okay, yep. So just come off mute and then go ahead and ask your question.
All right. Hey, I just want to verify. So I have already submitted this once or maybe even twice voluntarily, and we do it with our vendor though through our quality clearinghouse. We do not go directly to QualityNet or HARP to do it, and that should be fine, right? As long as we're doing it so that it does end up with CMS, correct?
I believe that should be fine. Erica and I can actually take a look and see if it's showing, because I believe, Erica, you can see if they've reported, correct?
Yes, I can see that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So we could take a look at that if you want us to
Perfect.
follow back up with you just to make sure.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes. And then the state gets feedback reports from like the Flex overarching body who kind of helps facilitate the program. So then we'll be able to start seeing that data provided on those reports as well that Kate sends out to you all. At least I'm assuming that's what's going to happen. I know it hasn't happened yet, but I imagine that those will be provided on the report. Are there any other questions that we could help address today? Or is there, if you're interested or want to possibly have a one-on-one with your facility specifically about this measure, you could just put your email in the chat and we can follow up with you and set up a time to talk about it if you're not already reporting or have questions.
I have one concern. I'm not sure it's going to apply to everybody though. But that concern is when we have elective admissions, surgical admits, their labs are done outside of the time frame. So those will always be missing labs within 24 hours. Not always, frequently. I definitely don't want to incentivize repeating labs unnecessarily. Any thoughts on that? Are you hearing that from any other hospitals?
I
Would
haven't
these-
heard. Oh, go ahead, Callie.
But just to kind of echo with what I think you were going to say, I haven't heard that. Maybe looking at your beneficiaries and maybe considering that. Erin,
Is there
I'll let you
anyone
jump
else
in.
on the call who may be experiencing that we could help answer? Because I haven't heard it, but this is the call to ask on because we got all the folks. Well, maybe Patricia, that's something we could follow up on with you specifically and see if there's anything, any thoughts we might have after this call.
That'd be
Yeah,
great.
this
Thank
is
you.
Kate. I'm happy to put that kind of up the chain, that
Yeah.
concern, and see if anyone in other states has encountered that and what we can maybe do.
Yeah, and especially with them being new required measures, I imagine things like this will be coming up. Like there will be little nuances where, it may not apply or, it may not be relevant for your hospital or your demographic. Meredith is asking when are CAWs expected to submit. So some hospitals have already been reporting. Hey, Erica, there's also a chat, or if you want to follow up with that chat separately. But so Meredith asked when CAWs are expected to submit. So some hospitals have already been reporting this. For the Flex program specifically and MBQIP, the first submission would be, and now I need to go back to the slide. Is it October 1, 2026?
Yes,
Yes, October 1, 2026.
but that means that we'll start in.
You start next year, data
Yeah.
collection. And then Erica, did you get those notes in the chat to follow up on?
I did, yes.
Great. Okay. Okay, yeah, and if you guys come across things that like was just brought up about the labs not being done in that time frame, feel free to bring them up to us because Kate communicates with with the folks who help facilitate the program, like we mentioned, and it's good for us to pass on those notes of what hospitals are actually experiencing on the ground, opposed to assuming that it's just going to work for everyone and that this is just how it is. So the more feedback we have, I think is great. So thanks for sharing that. And yeah, and if you come across other things of similar situations, we'd be happy to share those. So if we have no more questions, I just want to remind everyone that next week we are doing a session on the other new measure, the safe use of opioids. That's going to be with Kyla Newland. She's our pharmacist by trade, and she'll be helping us through that measure. And we'll talk specifically about the measure and also talk about how to report that one as well. So thank you everyone for joining. And again, please reach out to us. Kyla and myself, we're here locally, and we would be happy to support you. Callie and Erica are also always available, so please reach out. We're here to support you in these efforts to do your reporting or any quality improvement efforts you'd like to focus on. So thanks everyone. Happy holidays and have a great week.